Hey, Troy, I got a question for you.
Okay, what you got?
Do you have a will?
I do have a will. Andrew and I have people that if something happens to us, that they would receive whatever it is that we have, which ain't much.
So am I in the will?
I'll have to talk to Andrea about that.
The question this morning is if the church must close its doors due to the lack of members, what is to be done with the collection?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, that's a really sad question. I hate to hear that. I don't want to see any congregation of the Lord's church closed, but that's an important question.
It's one of those things that, we don't like to think about, kind of like death and, planning a will, but we understand the reality is we won't forever be here. And in some places, some congregations will not always exist for various reasons.
Right.
It could be a lot of the children are having to move other places to maintain jobs. I've seen a lot of different situations occur. Sometimes maybe another congregation gets started in an area, and over time they decide, people are going there, and so the membership dwindles down at one. This is one I've actually had quite a bit of experience in because of the work I did with Northwest Florida School of Biblical Studies. There were congregations that would close, and they would take those funds and then they would give them to the school to make sure that preachers were trained, that television work was being done. And their attitude was like what's in Leviticus 27:30, is that when they gave that money to the church, that's giving it to God.
Oh, okay. Right.
And so now it belongs to Him. So now how can we use this to be able to continue the work, even though we might not exist as a congregation? And so I believe the best thing that a congregation can do if they're closing, maybe they're selling their building and they have those funds, is to find a sound congregation with an eldership, give the Lord's money to that congregation because that they belong to the Lord, and let those qualified elders distribute that money for benevolence, evangelism, the works that are authorized within the New Testament.
Yes, I think that's great advice, and I know that you come to that because of biblical principles.
Yes.
We don't just give advice or something like that just because of our opinion. We go to scriptures, like for example, for me that makes me think of the purpose of giving, and in 2 Corinthians chapter 8 verse 24 it says, "Therefore show to them and before the churches the proof of your love and our boasting on your behalf." This is Paul talking to the church here in Corinth on that gift that they were giving, that donation to help their brethren in Judea. And so there are biblical principles for what you were saying there.
It is, and sometimes people ask things like, should we just divvy it up among the members? And I think sometimes while they might be well-intended when they say that, and I'm not going to say it's a covetous thing, what we need to keep in mind is when we give on the first day of the week, we're giving to the Lord. 1
That's
Corinthians
right.
16, 1 and 2, 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 7. Certainly the host of passages in the Old Testament, the idea that when you're bringing it before the Lord to offer. Even the case with Ananias and Sapphira would be
Yes.
a prime case, where while it was in your hand, it was yours to do what you wanted.
But once you give it to the Lord,
It's now His, and you've been deceptive with it. So, it's not like, oh, we got this kitty of our money, and now that we're closing, let's distribute it back to us.
that's right.
It's we have given it to the Lord. Now let's make sure it's used for the Lord's work is what I would recommend.
And typically, we hear a lot of times people say, the Lord doesn't need your money, but we do give to show that love. And so, yes, it belongs to the Lord. Let's use it for the Lord's purposes.
Amen.